off drugs and alcohol, to get off people, codependency, that sort of thing. And inner child became a really big part of my healing journey. I didn't write about it at the time. I wasn't actually doing it. I had about a 5-year writer's block where I was doing spiritual and emotional healing. I wasn't able to write anything except maybe journaling or, stream of consciousness. But in that time, I was starting to get well and starting to really know myself and even maybe love myself a little, maybe like myself a little, because I really hated myself and disliked myself for the longest time. And then along the way, the writer's block broke in early 2024, like right around New Year's. Boom, I was writing again. And then that summer, I just sort of felt compelled to start writing the inner child work, like in real time. I was doing it. I'd been doing it for years, and we can talk about, techniques for doing it. But I was doing it, and then I just started writing it, and I was like, no, I don't. Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to write nonfiction. I don't want to be, a healing guru guy on a podcast who wrote a book about inner child. Is like, I don't understand where this is coming from, but I felt kind of compelled to write it, and so I did in about 6 weeks. It's called Wounded Angels. That's the book that I wrote, and it's very personal to me. But it took me about 6 months to publish it because I had to convince the inner child that it was, or the inner child had to be okay with me doing it, because it was like, this is the most vulnerable thing I ever wrote. If you read it, you probably have a lot of ammunition to use against me if you want to. You know what I mean? It's like this is my story. It's like right out here. It's as honest as I could be, which I've learned that, honesty has evolved over the years. Like we're as honest as we can be. But then like a year later, 5 years later, I might find that, wow, there was a level of honesty that I wasn't able to access then, but now I can see it. Like, especially looking at the parts of me that I am not too proud of, or things that I did that I didn't, at the time I felt was really cringy or really horrible or really made me a bad person. It's really hard to look at that stuff. And that's inner child work addresses that as well. So I'm a big proponent. I'm not an expert. I'm not a therapist. It's just my story. But I do feel that it was transformational for me. And that's why I'm on podcast talking about it.
When it comes to the inner child, a lot of people struggle with knowing what it is, how to identify it, and its impact. How were you able to figure out that you needed to heal this part of yourself?
Well, I I've so for me, I always want to say inner children, because for me there's many different facets. And I don't know people if people are familiar with IFS, the internal family systems therapy thing. It's they talk about the different parts. I say facets just to sort of differentiate it a bit, because I don't know IFS, but I'm a very big fan of it. And there's just different inner children, right? So when you say inner child, for me, there's a whole bunch of them. It's a whole, and that's my book is like each chapter is like a different part of me that sort of got stuck in a shocking or traumatic moment. And the reason that it was a bit easy for me, I think, some people really struggle to understand it and access it. But for me, I had one profound shock when I was 9 years old that I remember clearly to this day. Um, to be specific about it, I lost my mom when I was 4. She passed away when I was 4 years old. But then at age 9, my dad told me in a kind of indelicate, not really good way, that she had taken her own life. She killed herself. And then this inner child, this I call him the shame shocked boy, right? The next day in school, no aftercare. It was the early 1980s, like, there was just go to school, And I was in school having a shame attack, which I think a lot of people might not know what that is, but I equate it to similar to a panic attack, because a lot more people understand panic attacks. Because if the bear walks in the room, you know you're going to have a panic attack, and people understand that panic attacks are sometimes not rational. And then so shame attack, it's the same kind of thing. You feel this flood of dread and fear and just icky, gross, like I can't stand feeling this way. I need to change it. I need to stop it somehow. And this was toxic shame. I call it unearned shame. I was 9 years old. No 9-year-old deserves that kind of thing. And I didn't even know what it was. But then when I started doing the inner child work and learning about it, and then finding that triggers today will often take me back to these traumatic events in the past, I realized what that was all about. And I started to have a lot of empathy and love and affection for that kid who was 9 and went through that and just, had a horrible, horrible time of it. And so for me, it was kind of easy to identify that inner child. And then from that, I could sort of start looking at other times in childhood that were pretty rough and sort of got frozen in time, stuck in our system, as it were.
When I began to do the work for myself and identify what was going wrong, what was going right, and everything in between, one of the things I learned is that I had to make a shift, not only from the people around me, from maybe about the places and the things that I actually did, because I realized that they weren't going to be serving the person that I want to become. But I needed examples of good, healthy people who were around you in your life to set an example of where you wanted to go and to help you along that journey.
That's a great question. Um, as I started, so 12 step is a part of my journey, and I'm not here to pitch for it or suggest that anybody should do it or shouldn't do it. I respect the anonymity part of that very much. But for me, when I was at my absolute bottom, I had been a hermit for about 11 years, literally like I'd lost my jobs and whatnot. I was just living every day, drinking drugs if I could get my hands on them, and just shades closed, never went outside, no friends, um, for 11 years. It was horrible. I was 100 pounds heavier and just miserable, wanted to die. And this was in like basically my 40s. I'm 55 now. And so when I did finally hit the rock bottom and I finally decided to seek help, and I was hospitalized in Tokyo for that, I found the support community, and I started to find admirable people that I could look up to that had been through similar stuff to me, that were speaking in kind of wisdom that I needed to hear, and telling me, well, if you get off the daily alcohol, if you start finding a little bit of gratitude. Gratitude was a big thing early on, and I still do that, like the little gratitude lists and stuff if I'm having a bad day. These people really inspired me and helped me. But meanwhile, I found that I had another addiction. And this took another couple of years, 3 years to address, which was codependency, because I started to idolize and even worship people and think that if I had their approval, if they were happy with me, I was happy with me. And if they were having a bad day or whatever, they said, "Oh, David, we don't want to see your face today," then I was a bad person again. And that whole thing became an even deeper level of healing that I needed to. First, I needed to accept, because I was in denial. The first time I ever heard the word codependency from somebody, I was like, "That's a stupid made up word." I don't even know. I'm not even gonna look at that, because that sounds pretty true. Like I don't want to even think about that. So I had to address that and separate myself from these. There are admirable people. There are people that I really love and respect, but I had to find my own integrity, my own self-care, my own self-like and self-love. And also I have a spiritual center too. I'm very spiritually minded. I pray and meditate and do all that sort of grounding stuff to keep myself sane. And so all that had to happen. And then I could sort of reestablish good relationships with good people on a more healthy level, not a commander subordinate level, but just peers, people walking through the journey together like we're doing today.
Codependency is tough
Mhm.
because there's that line, right? I need this person because I love them. They're important to me, but I can't live without them. Like every time they breathe air, I need some of that oxygen. It's like a prison. Codependency, how did it show up in other areas in your life?
Um, well, it showed up everywhere, I think, when I had relationships, because as I say, like from childhood, I really didn't have any friend. I couldn't make or maintain friendships as a kid. Um, I just couldn't. I was too broken and too weird and struggling. And then even as an adult, I got into music and drumming. So for a while, that sort of sustained me. And so if I was a good drummer, then people would say, "Oh yeah, good job, you're a good drummer." And then, "Oh, they're my friends because they like what I do." So I would try to do more of that, like get up on stage and be entertaining or impressive. And that would be how I would get friends. I couldn't figure out how to get a friend, like, because the thing is, I didn't like myself. I didn't consider myself likable. And when you're in that position, it's really, I mean, some good-hearted people might be a little bit close to you, but it's really hard to get any kind of a, real bond. But anyway, then drugs and alcohol took hold. And at that point, I wasn't even in the codependency because I wasn't even bothering to try to have relationships anymore. I was just on the way down through my late 20s, 30s, and into my mid 40s. So 20 good years of really dark times. And then again, when I finally was able to put that stuff aside and address the addiction issues, I started to try to form healthy relationships. But that's when the codependency kind of flared up. And not with everybody. Like, not, I mean, some people I just had fine relationships with right off the bat. Other people I just would get fixated on. But here's the thing I want to add. I don't believe that there's any such thing as a one-way codependent relationship. I think it's a two-way street. Water seeks its own level. Even if you see one person that seems like really crazy and the other person seems beleaguered by this crazy person, we're all doing our dance there. And that's what I had to look back and see when I would sort of reflect on and examine these relationships. Oh, wow. Okay, they played a big part in it too, like 50%, and it's like, it's not just all me. David's no good. He's not worth, no, it wasn't like that. It was just an unhealthy balance of a relationship. And a lot of those relationships did fall away. But a few of them, when we were both growing together and doing the work and getting healthy together, we were able to have healing conversations and enrich the relationships. And those people I'm still dear friends with to this day.
Congratulations. I'm glad that you're able to move forward and to conquer the addiction because the addiction can be tough.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it can kill too. That's the thing. Like if we get in the depths of the addiction, I've had a couple of people I know pass away from it. And including, I lost a cousin to alcoholism. He died at 29. So, I mean, it's a deadly serious thing, and I'm very grateful. I haven't. I've been clean and sober for almost 8 years now.
For those who are maybe struggling with addiction, either they've identified what they're going through and they're trying to change course, or they're at the early stages where maybe they just don't realize how bad it is. At what point did you realize, David, that you want to make the change, and how can that encourage others to do the same?
Well, in my case, I was very stubborn, and I'm lucky to be alive because, and that was, I had a spiritual awakening on a beach right near here in 2020, and the realization, like, I should have died from this. I was really doing toxic things. That was 100 pounds heavier, extremely reckless behaviors, not taking care of myself for a long, long time. Um, but I was quite in denial about it. And I thought, oh, well, drugs and alcohol are the only good things in my life. Everybody else, nobody likes me. I can't, life sucks. I might as well be drunk or whatever. And, um, and that was the stuff that was killing me, but I couldn't see it. I was in extreme denial. And I'm not sure, as I was really isolated and alone for those last 11 years of addiction. And then after 11 years, it started going downhill even more. I took a trip to America and I went to New York, and there was, plenty of more that I could get in trouble with there. And things just started getting even worse. and I ended up hospitalized. And then it was like, oh my God, maybe this is my problem after all. So yeah.
When you made the change, what are some of the steps that you took were beneficial to you?
Gratitude is a big one. Um, just even that, and of course, if you're just coming up for air and you're just starting to try to become well and try to do a bit of self-care and try to do a bit of healing, there's not a lot to be grateful for. Life can be pretty dark and tough. So when I say gratitude, I just mean like just like really basic stuff like, oh, it's a nice day today. I took a nice walk. I breathed the fresh air. I have enough food in the refrigerator. I'm not going to be hungry today. These kinds of things, the basics. That was really important for me early on. And then again, the spiritual work, that 12 step does some of that. You can get some of that from therapists or whatever. There's plenty of ways to do it, and the community too, the recovery community. Those techniques for really examining what you were doing that wasn't so good and what you can do better, basically. And then again, a little bit deeper into it, and this was a couple of years after I quit drugs and alcohol. I don't recommend it right off the bat, but the inner child work and addressing the childhood trauma and addressing the fact I was scapegoated as a kid. There were a lot of dysfunctional adults in my life that were not seeing their part in what they were doing, but it was really easy to scapegoat me and say, oh, David, oh, he has behavioral problems because his mom died. David, he's struggling. He can't get a good grade in school unless he likes the teacher. And this was my control thing. I used to get A's and F's, right? I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm capable of getting an A. And if I liked and trusted the teacher, I would give them the A, right? This is talk about cutting off your nose to spite your face. But I would fail the classes if I disliked the teacher or didn't trust them. And I just, this was it was a control thing. So anyway, it was like easy to say, oh, David, David, David. And I ended up leaving home at 14 because there was my dad who passed away last year was alcoholic, and we did some repair work before he passed away. I talked to him 2 days before he died, so that's kind of the blessings of spirituality and recovery because I was able to get a better relationship with him, but he never did really find his own recovery, and he struggled, but he couldn't see it. And and so I was scapegoated in that by someone who wasn't really behaving like a healthy caregiver. And so seeing all that, recognizing all that, and the inner child work again, and as I wrote about in Wounded Angels, like that's pretty much every chapter is like, well, this happened when I was 11, and that wasn't right, and I didn't do anything wrong, and I was, harmed by this. And it's not like blame. It's not like, oh, they did this, I hate them for it. I don't feel like that. It's just recognizing the stuff factually, the truth within us that we, find when we really are able to look at what happened, how we felt about it, how it affected us, and how it's bleeding into our lives today because we haven't taken a look at it. Yeah. And the one thing I would give an example like this, people talk about triggers a lot, right? And and it can be kind of seen as negative, like the woke community. Oh, triggered. It's not like that. But for me, when I get triggered, it means I have an oversized reaction to something that's pretty ordinary. Like, say, my friend Terrain canceled dinner, like can't make it. He said, "Oh, you went with some other friends." And you didn't invite me. And I just go, I can't believe it. Nobody, everybody hates me. I can't believe, and I'm suddenly feeling very childlike. By the way, I'm careful. I don't say childish. I say childlike, right? I feel myself behaving in a childlike way. And then I go, oh, wait, and then I do a little bit of the techniques to connect the present with the past, and say, well, who was that? Like, who are you? Who is that child that got rejected by the peers? Who is that child who's feeling like they can never make a friend? Who's that child who thinks nobody ever wants to have dinner with him? And then once I see that inner child, I can start to connect, care for, listen to. Like to me, inner child has a lot of wisdom. Like some people talk about, parenting the inner child, and I do some of that. But I think my inner child has tons of wisdom. And and when I see that wisdom, then I can really, really, really get into peace with the present moment, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's hard to put words to, but it's very powerful.
No, that absolutely does make sense. It reminds me of someone that I used to see at the gym every once in a while. And we got to know each other a little bit. And I interviewed her when I first started this. And she discussed codependency. And she was really an advocate of identifying and breaking through it because she became codependent on someone that she was dating at the time and she was planning to get married to. So they were engaged and they're going down the steps like a lot of people, right? We're in love, we have stardust in our eyes, and everything makes sense. And the music just sounds so much better, doesn't it, David? And then she realized that she was giving up herself. She made the person joint with her business that she was starting to come up. And then within a couple of years, that person took her money, took her business away from her. That's her rock bottom of seeing codependency because her life went from being built around her to being included to this person, and then it went to being built around this person, and this person was in control of everything, including her senses. And I think that's one of the dangers of codependency because what you think is love and
Mhm.
affection and attention really, really isn't. You did the work to heal that. She ended up doing the work to heal that as well. What do you think codependency, inner child or inner children, how do you think that impacts our self-worth and our value of ourselves?
Oh, hugely, hugely. I can safely say I like and love myself today. And that's amazing because I couldn't say that without puking like 5 years ago. Like, oh, that's gross. I can say it. It's true. I'm not perfect. I screw up. I all the time. And when I do, I try to do what I can to make amends or make up for what I did. I examine pretty closely. If somebody's angry with me, I don't immediately dismiss it. I try to really hear what they say, and then I go inward and I think, do I agree? Did I do something wrong? Okay, maybe I did. Okay, how can I make it better? So I'm not perfect, but I do like and love myself. To address what you were talking about, that sounds like a really extreme example. And I would say, yeah, it sounds like trauma bonding. And there are malicious people out there. And I'm kind of, when I'm talking about the two-way street and the water seeks its own level, I'm talking about a couple of unhealthy people really trying to make it work. And I got divorced a couple years ago. I have nothing but affection and love for my ex. Honestly, that it wasn't always the case, but like we were just both unwell, doing the best we could. But when you talk about a predator, somebody who stole, that's really horrible. And then you're getting into narcissism and just plain evil manipulation. Because this is the thing. I didn't want to publish Wounded Angels because I'm like, I'm going to be so vulnerable. That's like an instruction manual to David's psyche. If you read my book, you're going to know exactly how to trigger me. You're going to know all these things. And it's true. Like if we get vulnerable, that's what vulnerable means. It's like, vulnerable spots on our body, right? And if you're vulnerable with the wrong person, a truly bad person, that can really, really go into a dark place. And there are cults and there are narcissists. And if anyone listening finds themselves in that kind of situation, please get some advice and help. Because that's the kind of thing that you shouldn't be dealing with on your own. And it's very possibly criminal. Fortunately, I was very susceptible to cults, to highly charismatic people. Like I would meet a charismatic guy and I would be his wingman, right? I'll be your best friend. I don't need to be number one. You can be the popular guy in the room. I just want to be sitting next to you. Cause like if you're cool, that makes me cool. And then everybody will be okay. And I'll have allies and I'll be safe. and that's not ideal. But these guys that I got fixated with were not bad people, but they were playing their role, right? They were doing the commander, I was doing the subordinate, and everybody was happy with it for a while. So in my case, fortunately, I didn't run into any real bad actors, but some people do. And so yeah, be very careful about that. But yeah, learning about yourself, self-care, doing the healing work and learning literally, like if you think you don't like yourself and don't love yourself, it's not true. It's trauma. It's something and if I could do it, anyone could do it. I'm telling you, Terrain, I nobody hated me more than me. Nobody disliked me more than me. I didn't want to spend a minute with myself. I would, 24/7, I would, drugs, alcohol, but also, television, music. I didn't want to spend time with this guy, and it was very uncomfortable at first. When I started doing that healing work, a lot of it was riding a bicycle and walking on the beach and that kind of thing, calm reflection was so tough because I could only do it for like 5 minutes. Then I had to put the headphones back on because I didn't want to be with me. I didn't want to hang out with me. I wanted to hang out with the cool guys, somebody I liked better than myself. Now I can hang with myself pretty nicely I don't want to say all day, but yeah, for a while.
What are some of the ways that you love yourself today?
Do you mean like self-care? That kind of thing?
It could mean that. I'll give you an example.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
one of the ways that I love myself is that I'll take a moment, cell phone off, TV off, everything off, and I may just be alone in my thoughts. For about
Mhm.
20 to 30 minutes, I time myself, and then the remaining 30 minutes, I may read a book. I have one right here beside me, and my next one will be yours, Wounded Angels. That's
Thank you.
a way how I decompress and show myself love because all the noise can no longer be heard by me. Another way could be, as you mentioned, self care, right? I love restaurants. I love road trips. So what I do is I'll drive to a different city and I'll try the food there, then I'll come back home. I'm at peace, my stomach is full, and I'm appreciative that I can afford such things. So those are two examples of how I love myself. So when it goes to you, David, what are some of the ways that you love yourself?
Beautiful. Well, first of all, those two examples are great, and I do both those kinds of things. For me, I do it for spending a bit of extra money at the supermarket on good stuff, like expensive fruit or that kind of thing, where I used to maybe try to save all the money and whatnot. I don't need fruit because that costs a lot of money, that sort of thing. So those, yes, I do that. One that I would add that came to me as you were giving the examples would be acknowledging when I'm not okay. And I do this in a prayerful way. And I don't have a particular religion. So it's not like that, but I do have a sense of like, prayer. And there's something out there that I'm praying to. And I'll say, I'm really, really overwhelmed today. I'm really stressed. This is really tough. This is, you don't deserve this. I don't deserve, I'm having a lot of this last couple of weeks, I've been contending with a bit of back pain, quite more than a bit actually. And so it's like, oh man, this is really tough. I really don't like this. I don't deserve this. And that's kind of me loving myself, I think. Like recognizing when I'm feeling overwhelmed, recognizing when I'm all the emotions, feeling shame and feeling fear. And it's okay. Maybe, I'm feeling fear because I have to meet up with that mean person or whatever. And it seems like you shouldn't feel fear because you should just um, be above that or whatever. But if I'm feeling childlike and feeling vulnerable, I allow myself to sort of just say it's okay. It's taking care of yourself as if I was a child. It's two different. So they talk about inner parenting, right? We talk about inner parenting and healthy self-parenting. It's that kind of thing. Yeah, you can, and sometimes it'll be the inner child is really in a bad space, and it's like, okay, you deserve an ice cream, and I'm gonna go get an ice cream, even though I'm kind of watching my weight this week. It's not time for watching the weight right now. It's time for an ice cream, and some people do struggle with eating addiction too. So That's not to say everybody's solution is different, and self-care is different for everybody too.
I 100% agree. I'm trying to reduce my body fat percentage, so I'm trying to get buff like Arnold and Ronnie Coleman. So pray for me, David. Pray for me. And thank you. And one thing I want to highlight that you said that you're absolutely right. So like what's self-care? And I'm glad that you asked me back that question when I was trying to get it from you, is that self-care, I think in general, a lot of people think self-care, they think of the spa. Mud bath, facial massage, physiotherapy. Self-care can literally be I had a good week and I'm going to celebrate myself. And I've been tracking my macros all week, but today, Friday night, Saturday morning, I'm going to have ice cream and I'm not going to feel any regret. I'm not going to feel any guilt. I'm not going to feel any shame because I earned that treat. And that treat can be essentially anything, right? That treat can be a dinner date with your partner. It could be time with your kids. It could be a good book. It could be um, a number of things. It could even be a good show. When it comes to identifying what we need, David, why do you think some people struggle with that?
Um, I think that when we're unwell and dealing with healing and trauma, there's often a lack of self-awareness. I certainly had a very huge lack of self-awareness for a long time. I didn't know what, and even today, it depends if I'm in a good space. I can really be aware of my body. I think about health in terms of four different elements: physical health, mental health, emotional health, and these are different, and spiritual health, right? And sometimes I can be in really terrible physical health, but I'm doing great spiritually, and whatever. So checking in on those different elements, and like, sometimes I'll just be like, for example, I'm a little too crazy with the coffee these days. Like it's been a stressful week, been a stressful month actually, and I've just been drinking too much coffee, right? And then that's okay. But sometimes I'll be like, "Ah, I need that third coffee," and then I might go grab it. But if I sit for a minute or two, I'll realize, no, I'm actually hungry. I actually need breakfast. I should, if I eat a banana, it's not coffee that I need, but I don't know what I need. So when the body doesn't know what it needs, then it starts to go for like the quick fix things, right? Have a coffee, have a beer, have a codependent conversation, whatever it is that you're addicted, because you can be addicted to anything, gambling, food, you name it, emotions. I said, and it's hard. It's still even a little hard to talk about my dad. Um, too openly because I love the man. This is something I really realized, but he was definitely unwell, and I have come to the conclusion he was a rage addict, and by that I mean like he would just like Hulk out like and he'd get mad, and this would be really scary when I was a kid, and I realized it's not that he was a mean guy or that he disliked me, but I think he was addicted to that emotion. Like, or that was, the rage was a way that it was an emotion he was allowing himself to feel. Maybe because it was hard to deal with the deeper underlying emotions. Anger is often, for me, a masking emotion. Like if I can let go of the anger, then I find the grief, the fear, all that stuff underneath it. So I think you can get addicted to emotions too. So yeah, all that is to say, the more aware we are and realizing that and listening to the body, listening to the heart, I think we can start to know what we need. At least in my case, I've found that I can start to know what I need on a good day.
I think that is very true, that if we can listen to our bodies would tell us many things. I always share with people that your body will whisper certain things. Hey, stop eating that. Hey, stop being around those people. Hey, your job is causing you stress. But we ignore it, right? Because I've known that friend for 10, 15 years. That job has given me this house, my car, the people around me. What if no one else wants me? Like we start to justify what our body is warning us about until it's too late, until we get the tingling in our hands and we can't use them like we used to. Our back hurts, our legs hurt. Someone the other day was just sharing with me that they lost the ability of their legs because they were so stressed at work, working all these hours, and they just didn't realize what their body was telling them. Sorry, they realized it, they just didn't take it seriously until they hit the wall, right? Because
Mm.
there's really two choices at that point. Either you can work towards maintaining your body, or you can work
Mhm.
towards recovering from your body. And I think some people struggle with which one they want to do until it is ultimately too late. And that's the unfortunate part. And you mentioned addiction, and you may have seen some people who struggle with that when they're on the path to healing and recovery. Sometimes they would slip, right? And
Mhm.
they'll go back. And you mentioned earlier community. How important is having the right people, the community behind you?
It's extremely important. But I would say, in my experience with addiction, it's not enough because you also need, for me, I needed a spiritual element as well because you can, people, because you know how it is when you love an addict and like you'll do anything for them and you'll try, people, try, and you just can't help them because it's not something, it's kind of beyond medical science, it's beyond anything people can do. It's got to come from within. And I'm not saying you needed to find religion necessarily, but you got to find something deep inside yourself. But then the community is essential. So I would say you can't do it alone. So that's just it. Like you have to start with a real internal, like, I want to be well. I love myself too much to watch myself die. There's got to be a solution here. And then, yeah, and then I'm a huge proponent of community. I talk to people that I trust almost every day, probably, yeah, almost every day. This was a real crossroads, actually. I don't want to take up too much time with it, but I literally changed my life 2 weeks ago because I was supposed to be going to the Philippines. And I ended up, and we're talking about body stuff. I'm sort of readjusting my body because I've been traveling for 18 months and it was really tough for me to do the physical health routines and eat the foods that I want to eat and stay healthy. So I think my physical health definitely went downhill. And I got back to Japan, um, and I started to get healthy again. I started to get back into my grounding routine, but I was supposed to leave for the Philippines 2 weeks ago, Monday. I had a flight. And the day before, and this was a freak thing. I don't know what it was. I had stomach pain, and then suddenly I felt extremely nauseous. And I was trying to get back into bed to lay down, and I got extreme vertigo, and I fell down, and I hit my head. I got a concussion. Um, and I ambulance ride, hospital, all that stuff. And this was the day before the flight, and I didn't take the flight. I decided to stay in Japan for the year. So literally everything changed. But the thing is, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the universe hit me on the head or anything like that. I think it was just probably stress related, probably a lot of things going on, but also I really didn't want to leave. I had been saying that to friends for like days before. It's like, yeah, I'm going to continue on this nomadic thing for the rest of the year, but I really want to get back to Japan one of these days. And then that happened, So that was maybe it. And what you were talking about listening to the body, maybe I wasn't quite listening to the body enough, or the inner child, because the inner child was like, please stay. And I was like, no, we can't. We have a flight. We have plans. I'm going to do this. And no, I didn't end up having to do that at all. And it worked out kind of amazingly. I don't know what the question was. Sorry, I sort of ended up like really
No,
going into
you
the.
answered it, and it was a perfect segue into that because you did something that you believe was going to bring you joy. And
Mhm.
sometimes I think we view healing as this journey that there's no joy, there's no peace. It's like someone trying to lose weight. Oh, do I gotta really track how much food I'm eating? Do I gotta really count this, count that? When you make it like that, yes, you tend to take the joy out of it. But when it's healing, one thing, David, that I like to do is when I go through something difficult and I realize I need to maybe pivot and change something else, it's like I'm on this journey to find a different way to love myself. I'm on this journey to celebrate myself in a way that maybe I didn't think of before, right? You encourage, right? I know we talked about how you love yourself. How do you continue to push yourself forward in positive ways? And how would you like to share that with others who are listening today?
That's really awesome. What you just said was beautiful. I love it. I'm gonna go watch the episode and write that all down. I love it. Thank you. Um, yeah, I just what you just said, and the constant reinvention um, is important. And yeah, the prayer and reflection and meditation and light exercise, and just um, getting yourself into a place where you can get quiet and know what you want. And I'm very much like, yeah, I'm pushing myself by being on podcasts, honestly. I I write books. I'm a writer. I'm not interested in being a podcast host myself or doing the walk and talk selfie stuff. I tried that. I'm not very good at it. And everybody I talk to, like, you got to get on camera. You got to get yourself out there. The readers won't trust you unless they know you and all this. All true. So for me, I was like, okay, I can't do most of that. I hate most of that, but I do like connecting with people. I do like conversation. I'm going to try to go for the podcast thing. And it makes me nervous to get on here. It makes me nervous to tell my story. This is another level of vulnerability. Now you know my face and my story, you know? So yeah, I'm still pushing myself and I encourage people to do so. But I would add, I keep thinking back to what the story you were telling me about that person who was unfortunately met a really bad actor. And I would say, as you explore yourself and become vulnerable and find community and work on healing, trust those who are trustworthy. You're not supposed to trust everybody. And trust is earned, relationships are built slowly. These are things that I couldn't do years ago. I was just like, no, I need a quick friend. I thought I needed friends, but what my inner self was looking for was more like allies to make me safe. I need you to be on my side because otherwise you're going to be against me. And I had too many people against me. So I would really, if you were nice to me and love bombing worked like a charm, you told me how great I was your best friend, right? And then I would do everything for you. And if they don't do anything for me, then you've got that off balance thing. It's not right. And so, yeah, trust those who are trustworthy and be careful. But yeah, get that community, start building up that community. I'm kind of feeling that I'm getting that even with meeting so many good people that are doing awesome podcasts like yours, because this is just an incredible experience for me. I feel a lot better than I did 5 minutes before we started when I was all nervous and thinking, what if I, throw up on camera or something? I didn't, luckily. We're not quite done yet, but yeah.
So, David, one final question before I let you go. I want to give you three wishes for this question. What are three things you wish people knew about identifying people who are going to be trustworthy and safe, and why?
Um, People who are willing to look at themselves. If somebody always has advice for you, but if you give them advice, they're kind of they're oh no, I know my life. I'm good. I don't need any help from you, but let me help you. Watch out for that. People who are willing to look at themselves and say, I could be wrong. I almost always say that. Like if I give an opinion or if somebody asks me for help, I'll say, well, I could be wrong. This is what I think. And if we have a conversation and it turns out that I'm wrong, I hope I'll be open enough to realize it. Um, that's one. Um, Two, check with your gut and make sure because I'll tell you, my body does tell me, and I often ignore it. But like sometimes I'll get stomach pain, and I'll realize that I'm talking to somebody who's, and I don't want to not a talk. I don't want to say toxic person, just somebody who's maybe not aligned with me. I don't want to say these people are bad, but some people are in a different space, and I'll start to really feel uncomfortable physically. and realize, oh, they're saying manipulative things, or they're kind of, they seem to have kind of an agenda, and it's not an open, relaxed conversation. I don't feel good about it. So my body will tell me that. And then the third one, I think, um, somebody that you resonate with. And by that, I mean, when you tell your story, they don't have to, it doesn't have to be the same story, and they could even like not relate to it. I was talking to a guy who I'm going to appear on his podcast, who's a military guy. And, maybe immediately I felt a little bit intimidated, a little bit. He was like, oh, I was in Okinawa, I was in the Marine Corps, and I'm not a military guy. But that aside, I said, well, I'm not familiar with military, but, I'm certainly familiar with, um, trauma and difficulty and these things. And this guy was a really nice guy to talk to. And I felt simpatico with him. And I realized, oh, we're going to have a great conversation. And I didn't need to be intimidated by that one thing. So yeah, that's maybe the third thing. It's like if they can relate to you and you can relate to them on some level, that feels like, yeah, we have some shared experience that we can build on. That would